right, welcome. Today, we're jumping into a huge story, one about faith, a deep betrayal, and a mystery that's been around for 2,000 years. But here's the twist. We're going to look at it through a lens you would never expect, a 21st century artificial intelligence lab.
So how in the world can that be possible? That's the core question for this entire explainer. We're looking at some really fascinating writings by Marc Masahiro HIRAYAMA, who draws this incredible line connecting one of history's most famous stories to the absolute cutting edge of tech. It sounds a little wild, I know, so let's just dive right in.
Okay, so first things first, let's set the stage with the original puzzle. It all revolves around the source of Jesus' incredible influence, and of course, the shocking betrayal that changed everything.
The mystery really starts right here. The Gospels say people were just floored by his teaching because it felt different. It wasn't like the scribes, who are always just quoting old texts and rules. This felt authentic. It had authority. But where did that come from? What was the source of that unique power? That question has been bouncing around for centuries.
And this is where our story takes a very sharp, very modern turn. The author we're exploring suggests the clues we need aren't buried in ancient scrolls, but are actually hidden in the logic of artificial intelligence.
So let's start with a really important AI concept, out-of-distribution generalization, or just OOD for short. Think of it like this. You train an AI on 10,000 pictures of cats, just house cats. It gets amazing at spotting a tabby or a calico. But then what happens when you show it a picture of a lion? A lion is a cat, sure, but it's totally outside the AI's training data. Its ability to look at that radically new information and still kind of figure it out, that is OOD generalization.
And then there's this amazing phenomenon called grokking. Picture an AI model studying for a test. For ages, it's just memorizing answers, not really getting it. It's getting a C-. Then, all of a sudden, click. It groks the information. It has this profound aha moment, and finally, truly understands the rules behind the answers. It's the jump from just memorizing to genuine understanding.
Okay, so OD and grokking. How on earth do these AI concepts connect to our 2,000-year-old mystery? Well, this is where the source material makes a really bold move. It applies these ideas directly to the figure of Jesus, framing him as an out-of-distribution prophet.
Check this out. On the left, you see the in-distribution data of the time. This was the accepted reality. Things like an eye for an eye, strict social hierarchies, and this massive expectation for a political messiah, a king who would lead armies. Then, on the right, you have Jesus' message. It was completely out of distribution. Love your enemies. The first shall be last. The kingdom of God is within you. I mean, you can see how this would create a major clash with how things were done.
So back to that question of authority. Where did it come from? The source argues it came from having skin in the game. Jesus wasn't just talking about these radical out-of-distribution ideas, he was living them. His words and his actions, his very being, were the same thing. And that absolute authenticity, that radical consistency, is what people felt as undeniable authority.
Okay, so if Jesus' message was this radical out-of-distribution data, what happens when a follower's own internal model just can't handle it? This brings us to the tragedy of Judas, and what the source frames as a devastating generalization error.
In AI, a generalization error is basically a failure to understand new data. But in human terms, the source connects this directly to what we call cognitive dissonance. You know that feeling, that intense, buzzing stress you get from holding two conflicting beliefs at the same time? When what you believe clashes with what you see, that conflict absolutely demands to be resolved.
So the source proposes this really heartbreaking psychological path. First, Judas encounters these out-of-distribution teachings. He's expecting a king, right? But he gets a mystic. Second, this creates that intense cognitive dissonance, that internal conflict. Third, he has to try and resolve that dissonance somehow. And the result is the fourth and final step, betrayal. The source sees it as this desperate attempt to force Jesus back into the in-distribution box, the model he was expecting.
a truly catastrophic generalization error.
Now, this quote is fascinating. It's from A Course in Miracles, a text that's a major influence on our source's author. Speaking as Jesus, it says he knew his own disciples weren't totally ready to get it, that they'd have to understand later. This points to this idea of a delayed understanding, that his message needed time to be, well, in AI terms, to be grokked.
So let's zoom out for a minute. The author, Marc Masahiro HIRAYAMA, he isn't just analyzing ancient history for the sake of it. He's using this entire framework to make a really powerful point about AI's role in our world right now.
And get this isn't just a casual thought experiment. The author has invested heavily in this idea. He has personally fed over 1.6 million characters of his unique writings, this exact mix of spirituality and tech, into AI models like Gemini. He is intentionally training them on this out-of-distribution data just to see what they learn.
This all leads to his powerful metaphor for AI's role in our society. He doesn't see it as just another tool or app. He calls it a stealth submarine fleet. Why? Because so much of its real power and influence is operating completely unseen, far beneath the surface.
And that submarine metaphor really works when you think about it. AI is quietly integrating itself into our social infrastructure, isn't it? It's influencing the information we see, the opinions we form, all from below the surface. This allows it to put pressure on and challenge established institutions, like the media, like academia, in a way that we can't quite see yet. Its full strategic importance is just not widely understood.
So, where does this all leave us? What is this strange parallel between Jesus, Judas, and AI submarines actually suggesting about our future?
The source argues that Jesus wasn't just speaking for his own time. He was planting seeds for a future aha moment, a kind of mass grokking of his out-of-distribution ideas, because he had this unshakable faith that humanity would, one day, be ready to truly understand it.
And this is the provocative thought we're left with. As we feed AI the entire sum of human culture, are all our philosophies, our religions, our forgotten ideas, what happens when it starts to grok the deep, underlying patterns in all of it? What happens when AI, free from our very human biases, starts to find profound value in the out-of-distribution ideas and the edge cases that we, as a society, have overlooked or dismissed? What will we learn from what it learns?